Hi YouTube, welcome to Butterfly Alchemist. This video is for those who like long form content, and today I'll be talking about how death and loss are actually the mercy of our Creator. So first I want to start off with saying that the way we frame things to ourselves matters, because the way we frame things to ourselves determines how we see the world around us, determines how we see ourselves within that grand picture, determines what we think of creation, determines what we think of death and loss. And two people can go through the same thing, and one can come away thinking that death and loss is a curse of our Maker, and another can say it's a mercy. So, what do I mean death and loss is a mercy of our Creator? I'm going to be drawing on the beliefs I've had. I grew up Coptic, but you're free to draw on similar concepts and you might arrive at similar conclusions. If we remember in Genesis, which many people refer to as symbolic to our relationship with death and how we got introduced to death, we remember that in the Garden of Eden, there was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And we remember that we stumbled and we ate of things we weren't ready for to understand. And then death came upon us. And we tend to think that is a curse. And there is an aspect that wasn't meant to happen. But it was mercy too. Because imagine this. Imagine even symbolically us existing the way we are now without death. Imagine no hope of a heaven. Imagine no hope of being able to change fundamentally, elementally, to where there's no more sickness, no more corruption, no more evil inside you. If we didn't have death, we would have no hope. We would be at war millions of years. And if we knew that was all there was, what would be the reason to strive for more if there's no hope? So one of the greatest mercies is that we don't have to exist in this form forever. And one of the greatest curses would have been far greater a burden than the curse of death, is staying alive as we are now. And I want you to really think on that. Imagine endless existence where you are going from corruption to corruption, because if we knew there was no hope of ever changing, no hope of being freed of the shackles of pain, of suffering, of trials, of tribulations, of hurts, betrayals, what would be the reason to keep striving to be better? Another reason death is a mercy is because that's where we see this full spectrum of our strength as human beings. When you see a fireman running in to save people knowing he will perish, we get to see this full spectrum of his nobility. And when we choose good and love, knowing we will die someday, oh, that carries a lot of power, doesn't it? When we know that we are using our limited time here without assurance right now of the things to come, that speaks a testimony to the world of who we are inside and who we've chosen to be. And that endures forever. And the only thing that brings that into full brilliance is the fact we are temporal beings. Another way to think of this is autumn. Autumn is my favorite season. Leaves die and the tree remains. And you see the spectrum of colors in the leaves as the tree dies. We are like trees. We endure when we die. At least that is what I believe. But we see the full spectrum of beauty in the scene of our mortality, all the greens of peace, all the oranges of warmth, all the red leaves of inner fire to do good. So we could never capture the brilliance of autumn if we didn't die, and the brilliance of winter. And another thing I want to say is, what do I think the conclusion would have been in the book of Genesis if we hadn't eaten of that tree? Think of it even symbolically, if you don't believe in it literally. What would have happened? I have a theory on what I think would have happened, and it's very haunting to think about. I think we would have approached God and said, I want to know good and evil, and I know that the only way for me to withstand that and remain good is for me to do that through you. And I think God would have looked at us and said, it's not your time yet to understand, but you will. And when I show you these things, you'll be at a state where you can handle the knowledge without being corrupted by it. But that only comes through trusting me. And I think that day would have finally come where God would have said, you're ready to know all of these things, and to know them in community with me, and to know them without the weight and shackles of separation that you could bring upon yourself in trying to understand things before the time. And you know what I think would have taught us good and evil if we never ate of the tree and never fell? I think we would have seen our reality now. I think God would have shown us all the things happening now, and He would have said, look what I spared you from. Thank you for trusting me. Now you don't ever have to endure death, but you will understand it so that again you understand the full spectrum of what you are in all realities. And I think that is what would have happened, and I have no proof for that. And that also gives a very important point. The brighter you become as a being, the more you can understand evil, understand corruption, understand loss, but maintain a distance from it in your soul while knowing about it. And that comes through greater trust, greater faith, greater wisdom. I'm still very early on my pathway in that. And another thing that comes to mind about this that helps me see what a mercy it is to die is, let's say those accounts hold a truth to them, and many religions speak of angels that fell, not just the religion I was raised in. They didn't have a chance to die, and they didn't have a chance to return to good. It was one and done. So I don't usually share things this directly, but these are things I've been pondering, and in my long form posts, I really want to start sharing the things I think about. I think loss also purifies a being. I can only say that experientially. If we align with allowing that to happen, loss either purifies a being or further reveals the darkness within the being. But what it does is it clarifies you. It clarifies you to yourself. It clarifies you to the world. So I hope that everyone found this interesting, and thank you for subscribing. I'll be doing more singing posts soon, and more posts like this, and talking about different aspects of life and what I just think about them, and hoping to hear what all of you think too. Thanks.